highest electricity rates.
Federal Energy Minister Josh Frydenberg will be at that meeting in Sydney. He joins us from there now. Minister, good morning to you.
Nice to be with you, Michael.
The second meeting in 3 weeks. Was the first meeting that much of a failure?
The first meeting was a great success and we made a lot of progress there with a commitment by the companies that they would notify their customers when they're coming off a discount period, as well as a commitment from the companies to provide relief to the more than 100,000 Australian households who are on hardship programs. At today's meeting, we'll be putting a whole new set of proposals to the companies which can lower electricity bills for families and empower them to make an informed choice about their retailer and their contract, knowing that if they do so, they can save $1,000 a year or more.
What are those new proposals?
Well, firstly, we want the companies to write to the nearly 1 million Australians who are on the more expensive standing offers, people who may have been stuck there for 5 years or more, but have little advice about the better deals that are available in the marketplace. We also want to make it easier for the public to move retailers. Currently, it can take a month or more to do so. We want to truncate that process. We also want the companies to provide better access to consumption data for consumers so that they can use their iPhone or smartphone to scan a barcode on every bill, which will then automatically give them the other alternative offers in the market. They have such a system called QR codes in the United Kingdom, and we could do that here.
Are the companies receptive to that? Because we all know inertia is the great joy of energy retailers in terms of people finding it simply too hard to switch providers.
Well, Michael, you're absolutely right. Complexity and inertia are the company's friends and they are the consumer's enemy. And the fact is, about 50% of households have not changed retailers or contracts in the last 5 years, despite the big savings available to them. So we are pushing the companies hard, knowing how important it is to drive down power bills for families and for businesses and to build on the progress of the first meeting.
And if they resist, if they say it's too hard, Minister, what next?
Well, at the last meeting we also got agreement to a rule change to put in law requirements that they notify their customers about coming off the discount period. We always reserve the right to take stronger action through the rules, through legislation, if need be. But we want to take a constructive approach today, work with the companies to get better outcomes for their own customers.
What is that stronger action?
Well, there are always other alternatives available to the government using the National Electricity Market rules, working with the states. But today we want to see what the companies will agree to. They have the details and the proposals from the government, and we look forward to a positive outcome.
Our viewers are realistic. They'd also like to hear what are the worst case penalties available to the government for these companies if they don't comply. So what are they?
Well, as I said, we have available to us legislative options if need be.
What are those options? What are the penalties?
Well, the penalties for these companies is if they don't comply, then they will lose customers and the government can legislate for some of these changes. And like I said, we agreed, Michael, at the last meeting to legislate for a change to the National Electricity Market rules, and we're progressing that through the Australian Energy Market Commission. But when you're talking about getting more consumption data to consumers, putting in place these QR codes, moving customers more quickly onto other retailers, you do need the practical support of those companies, and you need to ensure that they have the right technological solution. So we are getting them to work with the Australian Energy Regulator, which is a government body, as well as with the Australian Energy Market Commission and the Australian Energy Market Operator, to ensure that we have the most balanced and most appropriate and receptive system possible.
Now, the companies are saying exactly what they said before the first meeting. Yes, they'll do what they can, but they want the government to pull its finger out and act on that clean energy target recommended by the Finkel Review. Why won't you act on that?
Well, firstly, whatever you do on the clean energy target, that won't change the behaviour of retailers.
It'll help bring down Australia's emissions, though.
Well, it certainly is a pathway to a lower emissions future, and it's a serious, important recommendation out of the Finkel report. And as you know, there were 50 such recommendations, and we have already agreed to 49 of those recommendations and quickly progress those through the COAG Energy Council, so they are being implemented. The clean energy target, Dr Finkel intended for it to come in from 2020, so we are giving it its proper and due consideration, wanting to fully understand what the impact will be on both the affordability and the reliability of the system as we move to a lower emissions future.
Okay, when will there be a decision on that?
Well, look, we're working through that at the moment, but this is a big decision for the country. It is not the silver bullet to lower prices. There are a whole lot of other things that the government is doing, whether it's in relation to more gas supplies for domestic users, whether it's reining in the power of the poles and wire companies, whether it's the discussions today with the retailers. So we are taking action on all fronts to lower power bills, and the clean energy target is one issue that is being considered by the government.
Okay, to another issue, Minister. Australians last night got their first taste of the campaign for those against same-sex marriage. Here's a bit of what went on TV screens last night.
School told my son he could wear a dress next year if he felt like it.
When same-sex marriage passes as law overseas, this type of program becomes widespread and compulsory.
Okay, cross-dressing in schools. What do you make of those claims?
Well, look, I would just ask that all parties to this debate, both the for and the against case, ensure that they are respectful. Excuse the interruption. Is that ad respectable? Well, look, I don't have a problem with that ad because I've got great confidence in the public's ability to make their own decisions as to whether they'll be voting yes or no. I'll be voting yes. I've made that very clear to my electorate. The polls would indicate that the majority of people are in favour of such a change, so let's just wait and see what the result of this postal plebiscite is.
Okay, Josh Frydenberg in Sydney, thank you so much for joining Breakfast this morning.
Good to be with you.